now beginning Seder Moed, which begins with Mesechah Shabbos. The Rambam in the Hagdama to the Mishnah explains the reason why Moed begins with Shabbos is because Shabbos is most common, it comes around every 7 days, it's Tadir, and therefore it goes before all the other Mesechtas in Seder Moed. Also, the Rambam notes that the parsha of the Moedos begins with Shabbos, and therefore the Seder Moed begins with Shabbos. It's followed by Erevin, which is connected, of course, to Shabbos, and then the other Mesechtas, Pesachim, Kippurim, generally follow the parsha of the Moedos. Now, the Mesechta begins itself with the melacha of Hotzah, of carrying. There's, of course, a prohibition, the one is not allowed to carry from one rishus to another rishus. The question is, why begin with the melacha of Hotzah? There are 39 melachas, and in fact, Hotzah is the 39th melacha. So why do we begin the whole Masechta with this? So the Mefarshim give many reasons why we begin with Hotzah. The Rambam writes that it is very easy to be nichshal, to stumble in the melacha of Hotzah, and therefore to put focus on it, to remind us that it's so important, we begin the Masechta with that. Others say, Tosfos says in Shabbos, that Hotzah is called a melacha gerua, like a shvacha, weak melacha. People might not realize that there's nothing wrong with carrying. After all, what's changed? You're taking one entity to another place. The actual item has changed, has stayed the same. So what have you done wrong? So therefore, again, we have to be reminded that Hotzah is an issa melacha. And other reasons are given. So the Mishnah begins, Yetzias HaShabbos Shtayim Shehin Arba. By way of introduction, the Mishnah is referring to Hotzahs. Hotzah on Shabbos, carrying on Shabbos. Now, to be over the Oraisa of Shabbos, there needs to be three components. Number one, there needs to be an akira, which means lifting the item up. Number two, there needs to be a havara, you've got to transfer it from one rishus to another rishus. For example, from a rishus hayachid to a rishus harabim, or vice versa. And number three, you need a hanocha. Hanocha means you place it down in that rishus. If a person does all three of those components of the crime, then he is over the Issa Deraisa of Hotzah. And if he does it b'shogeg, he brings a carbon. If he does it b'mezid, he's chayiv misa, like all the other Avos Melachas. Now, the Mishnah says, Yetzias HaShabbos Shtayim Shehin Arba. There are two ways in which the person who is standing inside the Rishus HaYochid would be over the Deraisa, which could accumulate to 4 Isurei D'Rabbanan, as the Mishnah goes on to list. The Mishnah expresses it in the way of an Oni and an Oshir, an Oni and a Balabais. The Oni, who is normally standing outside and is knocking on the door, asking the Balabais who's standing inside the house. And the Gemara just phrases it in this way for convenience. It's a neat way of expressing these concepts. So the Mishnah begins, Yetzias HaShabbos Shtayim Shehin Arba Bifnim. There are two, if a person is standing inside, the balabais is standing inside. There are two ways in which he can be over the D'Oraisa of Shabbos, which could become Arba Midrabanon. And conversely, Ushtayim Shein Arba Bachutz. The Oni who's standing outside, there are two ways in which he can be over the D'Oraisa, and that could amount to 4 Drabonans, as follows. Ketzat. Ha'oni oimed bachutz, if the Oni is standing outside. Ubal habayis bifnim, and the balabais is standing inside his house. Poshat ha'oni es yodoi difnim, if the Oni stretches his hands inside to the house. V'nosan l'soich yodoi shel balabais, and he places something into the hands of the balabais, he has done 3 components of the crime. He has lifted up an item in the Rishus Harabim. He has done the Havor Rishus by placing it into Rishus HaYochid, and then he's placed it down, he's done the Hanocha. So he will be chayiv in that situation. Or, alternatively, Shenotal Mitoichav Hotzi, or conversely, the Oni puts his hands into the Rishus HaYochid, he takes something out of the hands of the Balabais, he then brings it back into the Rishus Harabim and places it down. He again has done 3 components of the crime. Ha'oni chayev, or Balabais is potter. The Oni is chayev because he has done all 3 components to the melacha, but the Balabais is potter. In fact, the Balabais has done nothing wrong whatsoever. It's not a case of potter avol osir over here. There's no drabonin even. It's potter because he's done nothing wrong. He's been a passive player in this procedure. That is the example of Yetzias HaShabbos Shtayim Shein Arba Ba The Mishnah then carries on. Poshet Balabayas es yodo lachutz. The Balabayas is standing inside his house. He stretches his hand outside. V'nosam l'soch yodo shel oni. And he places something in the hands of the oni. Or he does it the other way around. He takes something from the oni and he places it back into the Rishus HaYochid. Then Balabayas is chayev v'ha'oni potter. The Balabayas is chayev because he has done all three components of the crime. He either takes something from the Rishus HaYochid and places it into the hands of the oni. He's done Nakira, a Havoras Rishus, and a Hanocha. Alternatively, he does the Akira from the hand of the oni, brings it back inside to the house and puts it down. So again, he's done the three components of the crime. And the oni will be potter because similarly, he is a passive partner, he hasn't done anything wrong. Even though potter normally means potter aval asa, here the Mefarshim explain that potter is even lachatchila, it's okay to do it, he hasn't done anything wrong. So therefore we have our four examples of where you could be over a deraisa. The shtayim shehin arba bifnim, and the shtayim shehin arba bachutz. The shtayim shehin arba bachutz is where the oni is standing bachutz, and he either does a hachnosa, he pushes something into the Rishus HaYochid, or a hutzah, he brings something out of it, but he does all components of the crime. And the shtayim shehin arba bifnim is where the balabayis is standing inside, and either he takes something and he puts it outside into the hands of the oni, or vice versa, he takes something from the oni and he puts it inside to the Rishus of the Yochid. Now the Gemara is going to go on and explain the drabonons, how we get shtayim shehin arba. Poshat he'oni es yod lifnim. The oni places his hand inside the house. V'nota balabayis mitoicha, and the balabayis takes it from his hand. Now in that case, the oni hasn't done all components of the crime. He's only been over a drabonon of picking something up outside in the Rishus HaRabim and putting it inside, but he hasn't done a hanoch inside. The balabayis has completed the whole procedure by taking it from him. Conversely, or the oni stretches his hands inside the house, and the balabayis takes an item and places it on the hands of the oni, and then the oni takes it back outside. Again, the oni has not done all three components to the crime, but both the oni and the balabayis have both done parts of the crime. So says the Mishnah, Shneihem Paturin. Both of them, the balabayis and the oni, are potter, because neither one has done a complete melacha, but they've done a part melacha. However, it's also to do it midrabanan, because Chazal will go there that if you do one part to the crime, you may come and finish it off, and therefore midrabanan it would be also. That is shtayim shehin arba, 2, which becomes 4. The final numbers 3 and 4 are only isuri drabanan. And finally, the Mishnah says, Poshat balabayis is yodu lachutz. If the balabayis stretches his hand outside, v'notan he'oni mitoicha, and the oni takes the item from him. So the balabayis picks up an item from his own home, he places it, he takes it and puts it outside, and the oni takes it from him. Again, the balabayis hasn't done a complete melacha, and neither has the oni, but they've both been over a derabanan. And lastly, conversely, oishen osan l'socha, the balabayis places his hands outside, and the oni puts something in it, the hichnis, and the balabayis brings it back in, shneihem paturim. So therefore, we have now established the cases where we have Yetzias HaShabbos shtayim shein arba b'fnim, and Yetzias HaShabbos which are shtayim shein arba b'chutz. The two would be involved where either the balabayis is standing inside, picks up an item, takes it out, puts it down, or the other way around, he goes out and he's machnis an item, he brings it inside. That is shtayim, which is bifnim. And the bachutz would be if the oni is standing outside and he picks up an item and he's machnis it and he brings it inside to the Rishus HaYochid. That's a complete melacha. Alternatively, he stretches inside and he brings it out again. That is again a complete melacha. That's the shtayim. Shein arba would be where both of them are doing it together. The balabayis is either lifting it up, he's taking it out, and then the oni takes it from him, and all the various permutations. That is the end of the first Mishnah.